This is your daily dose of all things royal.
Happy anniversary to Mom.
And Papa! I love you.
Blow them.
No.
Blow them.
Yay!
Yeah!
Oh my gosh! This is when Mama and Papa, when we got engaged, we had a party with all of our friends, and we said everyone wore an animal onesie, and we were penguins. We were penguins because they're together for life. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Happy Entrapment Day! We're 8 years into this nightmare, and it doesn't seem like it's ending anytime soon. I still have faith that the Trump administration is going to be doing something about these two, but right now, I don't see anything happening until after the midterms. But in the meantime, I literally cursed the day that this woman was allowed into this family and to cause so much damage. And I'm going to show you how Harry and Meghan's influence supports these radical leftists who are causing all kinds of trouble. It's my opinion, but these two seriously belong in prison for their seditious behavior these last 6 years in the United States. Despite the censorship complex being exposed and partially dismantled with the takedown of the GEC and GDI and GARM, you still have a lot of these same players now acting in different capacities under the guise of child safety to regulate the internet. They're still going forward. Y'all remember back in December 2025 when the State Department revoked Imran Ahmed of the CCDH from the UK that was created under Labour and was working with the Biden administration putting out those Fugazi reports like Bot Sentinel to smear and slander voices that they wanted to cancel? This is the same CEO who wanted to kill Musk's Twitter from those whistleblower documents that were leaked. Same documents showing that Archwell Fugazi Public Charity had been in collusion with the CCDH. This is where they were coming up with their plan to build this so-called parents network to reduce online harm for the kids. Now remember, Imran Ahmed worked closely with Morgan McSweeney at Labor Together in order to remove Jeremy Corbyn as the lead for the Labor Party to place Keir Starmer as the lead for the Labor Party. This guy, Morgan McSweeney, let's not forget, was also in Kiev with Prince Harry. So you can see they're all connected. But getting back to Imran Ahmed, you may recall that Imran Ahmed was so offended that the United States revoked his visa in December of 2025 that he turned around and issued a lawsuit citing that the United States government is violating his First Amendment rights. A guy who came from the United Kingdom, who had been actively working with the Biden administration to put pressure onto social media platforms to censor certain voices like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Well, anyway, Imran Ahmed hired the left-leaning Roberta Kaplan, who represented Amber Heard, as well as Jean Carroll, who won her case against Donald Trump. Currently, where we are with this lawsuit is Imran Ahmed pushing back on the State Department, requesting the transfer of this case to go over to D.C. because Imran Ahmed doesn't live in New York. But of course, they have the case filed here in New York, making up all kinds of excuses as to why this case should be heard in New York. And the only reason why they really want this case in New York is because of the leftist judge that's there that would rule in their favor. This pushback from Imran Ahmed, that in itself is tying up the court system, but it's also dragging out this process for him to be deported. Not only is this stupid court case going to be wasting taxpayer money, but it's also going to be wasting the time of Marco Rubio, as well as the head of DHS and the DOJ. And if that wasn't enough to waste taxpayer money, resources, and time, there's also another group who filed a lawsuit back in March of this year in defense of this piece of shit. So we have now entering into the chat a nonprofit that supports online speech restrictions suing the Trump administration for sanctioning people who push platforms to censor and delete speech. The nonprofit, called the Coalition for Independent Technology Research, wants a federal judge to block a State Department visa policy that was announced by Secretary Marco Rubio back in May of 2025. You see, they don't like this policy of Marco Rubio banning visas to anyone who has infringed upon American civil rights, which include our God-given rights of our freedom of speech. And this applies very much to Prince Harry. We have a UK prince on US soil who has been undermining the will of the American people here since 2020. So you're probably thinking, well, why hasn't he been deported? Don't worry, we'll get there in this video and I'll explain what is likely happening right now. But back to this nonsense of the Coalition for Independent Technology Research connected to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They filed a preliminary injunction and Chief Judge James Boasberg. Now, that name might sound very familiar to you if you've been paying attention to all the corruption that's being exposed here in the United States with these liberal Democrats.
Boasberg and Deborah Boardman both turning down requests to testify at a Senate hearing this week entitled Impeachment, Holding Rogue Judges Accountable. Boasberg, whose series of judgments regarding the Trump administration have ignited a legal firestorm, including his decision to restrict the White House's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelans. There have also been questions about his apparent role in Arctic Frost, that FBI investigation that allegedly tracked the private communications and phone calls of nearly a dozen Republican lawmakers.
He is the one that heard the oral arguments back on May 13th last week about why this policy should be done away with. You see, the 5 people that were sanctioned by Marco Rubio under this policy back in December of 2025 are not some random Joe Schmoes. These 5 people, which included Thierry Breton, who helped build the EU's Digital Services Act, Imran Ahmed of the CCDH, we had Claire Melford, who was running the Global Disinformation Index, and Josephine Ballin and Annalena von Hodenberg, who co-founded Hate Aid, which is a German group pushing legal action against speech it calls digital violence. Marco Rubio called them out for leading organized efforts to coerce American platforms to censor, demonetize, and suppress American viewpoints they opposed. So now, according to the Coalition for Independent Technology Research, otherwise known as CITR, their attorney, Carrie DeSelle, argued that the government is subjecting CITR's members and other non-citizens to exclusion, detention, and deportation simply for reporting on speech on social media and the harms that might arise from it, and advocating for different content moderation policies and other policies that might govern internet platforms. Representing Marco Rubio on the government side, lawyer Zach Lindsay told Boasberg, the judge, the sanctioned individuals had worked for or with foreign governments making their actions, not their words, for a relevant factor. Boasberg called it quite a complex case and hasn't yet ruled. So the main argument that CITR is putting forward here in this lawsuit is that this policy could have an overall effect on chilling speech, stating that researchers may self-censor and academics may avoid public engagement. But what CITR refuses to do is acknowledge a basic fact about the people that they're defending. These people weren't sanctioned for having just ideas, right? They were sanctioned for building systems designed to silence other people's ideas. I mean, Imran Ahmed was pitching the White House to buy into this STAR framework that would chill American speech. And let's not all forget the hate campaigns that were targeting specific people to get content banned. You had the Global Disinformation Index that created blacklists that cut revenue to outlets based on editorial positions the organization itself judged. A perfect example of CCDH's influence is that article from the American Thinker about Yankee Wally. As a consequence, nobody got to see that article of how Harry and Meghan censored this woman not only on one social media platform, but literally across the entire internet. Nobody got to see the abuse that we were all subjected to at the hands of these fucking people. So it really is breathtaking that these people who spent years arguing that deplatforming is not censorship now are arguing that they're being denied a visa is. The people who built the blacklists are now shocked to find themselves on one. They're now getting a taste of their own medicine and they don't like it. But because the people backing these coalitions and NGOs have unlimited resources, they will use lawfare to tie up the court system and to occupy the administration to be distracted from other things. And this is the bullshit that we're now seeing. This CITR is connected to Harry and Meghan, two main board directors of this coalition for independent technology research, have been funded by Archewell Fugazi Public Charity. In 2023, Nabia Saeed was honored the Archewell Fugazi Public Charity NAACP Digital Civil Rights Bullshit Award. And then you also had, for rebooting social media, money generously being pumped in to the Institute for Rebooting Social Media by the Knight Foundation, Reid Hoffman, Sleazy's buddy. We had Craig Newmark, and, of course, Archewell Fugazi Public Charity. The main funders of the CITR are Ford Foundation, MacArthur Foundation, and Media Democracy Fund, which is tied to Arabella Advisors. Arabella Advisors, known to be funneling dark money to causes like these from people like Hans-Jörg Weiss, the billionaire that sits on the board of directors with Prince Harry for African Parks. Yeah, that guy. This guy, James Mickens, is a faculty director for the Institute for Rebooting Social Media. So, of course, he is doing exactly what these donors are telling him to do. And the same thing for this Nabia Saeed. So, do I think it's a coincidence that this organization tied to Harry and Meghan, who are also tied to the CCDH, who had been censoring people here in America, are connected? There's no such thing anymore as coincidences when it comes to Harry and Meghan. The likelihood of all of these people being connected in helping Imran Ahmed stay in this country to continue to do the work that he's been doing in eroding our First Amendment is high. It's likely that it's all part of the strategy in order to not only frustrate the Trump administration, but erode policies that are going to affect people in the future, like Prince Harry. Now, let's talk about Prince Harry and why he hasn't been kicked out of this country yet. You see what's going on right now with all of this lawfare? It's to run the clock down. Trump has 2.5 years left, and these people are playing the long game. They will wait it out. They will drag their feet here on this and tie up the court system until 2028 when they attempt to take back the White House, which is a scary thought to know that they're going to try and steal the election again, because all these people know is how to cheat. But getting back to Harry, there is stuff going on in the background. It's just a question of how is it going to be announced to the public. I can say for certain that Trump and his administration know everything that this guy has been doing these past few years. This is now a diplomacy issue, so Harry cannot be handled like the regular Imran Ahmeds or these degenerates that have been trying to undermine this country because they want to see America fail. We have to understand that Prince Harry is next-level degenerate. Given the attacks on our freedoms, Harry's behavior and Meghan's have been both seditious. They're going to have to handle this very delicately because the geopolitical fallout will be massive, especially when regular MAGA Republicans get wind of this. It's over for this guy. He'll never be able to come back to this country. It definitely will be embarrassing to the monarchy, and I don't think Donald Trump wants to embarrass Prince William and ruin his chance at being king. I genuinely believe that Donald Trump really does like William and Catherine and wants to see the monarchy survive, so he's not going to do anything that embarrasses or jeopardizes that. However, what I can see, though, is conversations happening behind the scenes telling Harry that he has to go to prevent embarrassment and as a courtesy and favor to the royal family. As much as I would love to see a perp walk of these two, I'm not necessarily sure we'll see that, but they will be dealt with some way, somehow by this administration. That I'm confident of. As far as when, well, that's anybody's guess. It's likely it will be after the midterms, and by that point, I'm pretty sure Harry will be back home in the UK after the Invictus Summer 1 Year to Go event. That's my feeling. We've already started to see the propaganda rolling out, conditioning us to get used to the idea of Harry going back and gently steering us in the direction that they want us to go and where to look. They're not talking about any of this stuff, and there's a good reason why. And within this space, we see the controlled opposition and who is trying to steer the narrative and direct the conversation to the palace's liking so the narrative doesn't spin out of control. So just be aware of what you're seeing, and most importantly, trust your gut. That's really all I have for you today. I just wanted to show you how deep and wide the tentacles of this NGO network stretches and touches, and how it impacts, outcomes like situations like this. These coalitions are funded by these billionaire oligarchs who ultimately want to control everybody. These are the people that are part of this World Economic Forum, United Nations, World Health Organization, One World Government bullshit. At the end of the day, when you look at this overall ecosystem on what's being pushed here, it's about redistributing the wealth, controlling the population, and profiting from all of it. Now, I thought about this yesterday. We're 8 years into this nightmare with these two horrible people, and no matter how much we watch all of these projects and initiatives fail, these two still seem to be getting more opportunities to influence the global population. So the question is why? Why are these two being allowed to harass the population on a daily basis? This has been going on now for 8 years straight. So here's what I think, and let's just take this recent example of Meghan flying all the way to Geneva to deliver this speech on online safety. I think, one, it gives her some type of relevance, especially after Catherine having a really successful trip in Italy and actually making a difference. I think Meghan wanted to ride on the coattails of that and shove her face into the media to remove Catherine from the spotlight. I think partially why she does what she does is to steal spotlight. The other reason, I believe, is to advance Archwell's work in pushing legislation for censorship. The World Health Organization appearance gives that effort international legitimacy and the emotional cover that they're looking for. But at the end of the day, what drives Meghan is getting back at all of us who criticize her. She wants us all to shut up. Now, is Meghan a part of this globalist agenda? You bet she is. I mean, you can see it. It's an observable globalist agenda. This is not a conspiracy, okay? Globalist in the terms here refers to these networks of institutions, foundations, regulators, and elites who favor supranational governance, coordinated standards, and managed information flows over personal sovereignty and national sovereignty, as well as having open discourse. These people can't handle that. They never want to be challenged. And this court case with Imran Ahmed is the perfect example of how this machine all works together. You've got NGOs putting pressure here on the judicial system with unlimited funds to go off and sue with these frivolous lawsuits, right? Wasting taxpayer money, wasting time. I mean, literally becoming a hindrance in the freedom of this country. I think one of the top questions that we all have is why do they keep giving Meghan Markle opportunities and a platform to speak? Well, part of it is because Meghan remains a useful idiot to these institutions that want to control these platforms. You have a celebrity, albeit a D-list celebrity, who constantly cries victim and can throw in a little bit of her acting chops for the emotional appeal. I mean, not all so great, but it does help in a way move the issue. Then you have Meghan amplifying the regulatory direction without being a core decision maker, capitalizing on that soft power that the royals are famous for. When you look at Meghan's popularity, I don't think it really matters. Meghan's domestic popularity here in the US is like at the bottom of the garbage bin. Same thing with the UK, but it doesn't matter to these globalist networks. This Epstein class of people operate above national sentiment. Like, they don't care what the people think or even what we want or how we feel. Does it really matter that Meghan is a lying hypocrite? No, because in her elite circles that she's running around with, there has been really no accountability. Nobody really pushed back. I mean, look at Oprah. She allowed that viper to sit there and lie her face off for 90 minutes. You see, criticism, in this case for these elites, is dismissed as misogyny, racism, or, the go-to now right-wing attacks. Okay, it's so boring with these people. Like, they don't have the ability to have open debate because they're so thin-skinned. Powerful institutions like the monarchy, as well as wealthy foundations, platform people who advance their goals. And when you look back at Meghan's purpose when it comes to social justice and using race to drive this fracture within society, tearing down society essentially, she's advancing this globalist agenda. Consistency and honesty don't matter when it comes to the message aligning. It's why we don't see Charles doing anything to stop these two. So does Meghan feel any kind of shame that she gets up there and is a hypocrite, lying to people's faces and then turns around to virtue signal? No, she doesn't. Because Meghan operates in an environment that rewards this kind of behavior. Nobody pushes back or calls her out on it. If you notice, she's insulated with a controlled environment that, supports her doing all of this. So it doesn't matter if Meghan is a complete jerk to people behind the scenes. Meghan's never in a position to where she's being held accountable. Like, you look at this empty parking lot that she's doing the speech in. Nobody would have thrown tomatoes at her, and nobody would have shouted out that she's a con artist and a fraud. And that's because the environment, being that it's a memorial and a somber place, is not going to be disrespected in that way because people do have civility. So when you look at the risks, backlash from the public is containable. The institutions still give her these stages. Virtue signaling works as long as it serves the larger project. As long as what she's doing doesn't affect her status, access, and wealth, she's going to continue to keep doing whatever she wants because there's no one holding her accountable for it that shows her that there's consequences to it. Simple as that. They don't care about what we feel or how we see them. They're moving forward with this agenda. This doesn't have any kind of end in sight. We're going to continue to keep seeing this mess unless Meghan is locked up in either a mental institution or prison. The sad part about this is that even if, let's say, Meghan stepped away and decided to just go into hiding for the next 20 years, there's always somebody else who they will put up there to do the very same thing. At least in this case, Meghan's so bad at what she's trying to do here that we can call it out and recognize it. She literally has given the game away on how these globalists operate. It's scary to think that there are a lot of these kind of people out there in the world. I mean, truly evil people. This is the world we live in, unfortunately, and all we have really is Jesus to lean on. But what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
It was such a fraud.